Good morning. My name is Kathy Bowman, and I am part of the Religious Services team. Welcome to our service. Unitarian Universalism encourages an open-ended search for meaning in life.
Trustees and leader of the Sanctuary Project. Welcome to our service. Unitarian Universalism encourages an open-ended search for meaning in life and
We are a pluralistic religion that draws wisdom from many sources. We welcome all people into our beloved community of whatever age, race, class, ethnicity, physical ability, sexual orientation, gender identity, or religious background. We have a spotlight this morning, and Dana Rosenberg is going to share that.
Good morning. I am Dana Rosenberg, and I am doing this spotlight on behalf of Alice Martin, chairperson of the Strategic Planning Task Force. In January of this year, the Board of Trustees created a Strategic Planning Task Force with several goals: to assess where we are as a congregation in this time of COVID, a discernment of the opportunities COVID gives to us in this time of change, and a plan that moves us further along our path to the realization of our overall mission statement, creating beloved community. The strategic plan has been completed and approved by the board, with one last step to take before the newly formed implementation team begins bringing it to life. The strategic plan is based on a concept of communities within the community, where all voices are heard, all input is valued, with interrelatedness and interconnection weaving within and throughout our congregation. In keeping with this foundational premise, after the service today at 11:15, there will be a town hall meeting conducted via Zoom. The Zoom link was given in emails from Reverend Jay yesterday and this morning, as well as both a Facebook event and a Realm event. It may also be posted in the chat here on YouTube, I'm not sure. This will be an opportunity for everyone to weigh in on the strategic plan with thoughts and feelings about its goals and objectives, ideas for implementation, and any questions that together we can find the answers to. This strategic plan is simply a vehicle, ideas on paper. It is we, the congregation, who will determine its destination. The plan is sitting in the station. It is we who must get on board and drive this plan to its ultimate goal, practicing the components of being a beloved community. That is our mission and our dream. With all of us together, it can become our reality. The strategic plan itself can be accessed through a link posted in the last two newsletters in the article concerning the plan, and also there are PDFs attached to the emails that you might have received. It would be beneficial if all could have it available to follow the flow of the conversation. If not, there will be a brief synopsis of the plan given at the beginning of the town hall. Let's meet at the station at 11:15 and begin the journey together.
Thank you, thank you, Dana. I want to introduce myself again. I'm Kathy Bowman, and I'm a member of the Religious Services team. We are invited to create a service while our minister, the Reverend Jay Wolin, is not in the pulpit. However, he will make an appearance later today with the words for all ages. The topic for today is Pride in Memory, History of LGBTQ+ in the Quad City area. I will very briefly explore the history of our LGBTQ brothers and sisters in this congregation and in the Quad Cities, and we will hear two members of this community speaking about their experiences and sharing their wisdom. At this point, please prepare yourself for worship by enjoying our prelude. Thank you, Lori. That was delightful. Thank you for preparing that for us today. Welcome to this holy place, this shelter for our hearts and hopes, a sanctuary for our deepest longings. Here may we find rest and repair, connection and comfort. Here may we find our center, our breath, our voice, and the strength to go out into the world and be a shelter for others. At this time, please join at home in the chalice lighting words. They should appear on your screen, and Dana will assist. In the light of truth and in the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to inspire. At this time, please join for our opening hymn, We Would Be One. and Miriam will be leading in the singing. Join in at home.
Good morning. I'm so used to hearing everybody shout back good morning, so let me hear you out there in YouTube land say good morning. All right. I am not Aubrey Ryan. I know maybe it's hard to tell without the mask, with the mask, but I am not. I'm Reverend Jay Wolin, and I'm so happy to be here with you and with our members and friends who are sharing this service. We're going to be sharing Words for All Ages, the story of Old Badger. And I tell you, it's a story that is a reminder that we stand on the shoulders of those who came before us. That everything that is happening today is because of what those before us did. And they still, although maybe there are things, as you'll see in the story, that they don't do now, that they could do when they were younger, they still have much wisdom to pass on to us about our history and about even today how we move forward in the world. So please enjoy this story of Old Badger.
Can You Do This, Old Badger? Written by Eve Bunting. Illustrated by Louine Pham. It was the time between sunset and dark. Old Badger and Little Badger walked along the forest path. Little Badger jumped a little jump. Can you do this, Old Badger? I can, but not very well, Old Badger said. I used to be a good jumper, but now my legs are stiff. Little Badger tucked himself into a ball and rolled down the slope of the path. Can you do this, Old Badger? Maybe I could still do it, but it would be hard for me. I used to roll very well. Old Badger picked leaves and twigs from Little Badger's fur. Little Badger climbed up a bent, skinny tree. Can you do this, Old Badger? Two blackbirds danced out of the leaves into the sky. I can still climb, but only if I have to, Old Badger said. And I would climb backwards because it's easier. That's good to know. Little Badger came down and took Old Badger's paw. It's sad that you're old now and can't do many things. There are some things I can't do now, Old Badger said. But you help me remember how it was when I was young, and that makes me happy. Besides, there are lots of things I can still do, and lots of things I can teach you. He pointed. See where the ground is muddy from today's rain? There will be earthworms there. Come and eat. Old Badger was right. There were wriggles and wriggles of fat earthworms on the damp earth. Yum, said Little Badger. They ate and ate. When they were finished, Old Badger went to the stump of a tree. He raked at it with his claws. This is how you get the mud out from between your toes, he said. I can show you where to dig for bulbs of wildflowers in spring, Old Badger said. In summer, I can take you where the juiciest blackberries grow. I can teach you where the field mice make their nests. I can help you find honeybee hives. But remember, never go into a hive face first. You'll get your nose stung. A wise badger does not go in where the bees come out. I wish there was a honeybee hive right here, right now, Little Badger said. Old Badger sniffed the air. There may be one in that rotting log. There was. They clawed through the top and got to the beehive before the bees got to them. Afterwards, they walked along, licking the honey from their paws. Yum, Little Badger said. They stopped by a wide stream. I can teach you to fish, Old Badger said. I didn't know badgers could fish. Little Badger was surprised. Some can. They stood in the stream. Old Badger flipped a shining fish onto the bank. Little Badger saw one swimming below. He tried to catch it, but it slithered through his paws. It looks easy, he said, but it's not. You'll learn, Old Badger said. It takes time. They sat on the bank of the stream to share Old Badger's fish. How do you know so much? Little Badger asked, his mouth full of fish. Because I've been around for a long time. And because many years ago, an old badger taught me. Someday you'll be an old badger, and you'll teach a little badger what you know. That's the way it was planned. Old Badger wiped Little Badger's mouth with the back of his paw. Will that little badger love me as much as I love you? Little Badger asked. He will, Old Badger said. That's part of the plan, too. And now it's nap time. Is that another part of the plan? Little Badger asked. It's another part of my plan, Old Badger said. They curled side by side in a hole on the bank of the stream. The night air was cool on their fur. Their paws were still sticky with honey and silvered with fish scales, as together they slept under a badger moon.
Digs for worms. I'm not sure about that, but let it be a metaphor for how much that we can learn from each other and learn from each other in love as we go forth in building our beloved community. Thank you.
My connection with this project is through my long-term friendship with Joyce Wiley, a former member of this congregation who passed away over a year ago. During this pandemic time, there has been no opportunity for a formal celebration of her life, but there was plenty of time to ponder how to honor her memory. To those who know and love her, it was abundantly apparent that we needed to immediately preserve the living memories of the LGBTQ pioneers in this area. However, it was nearly impossible to meet in a group to plan a history project, but one part of preserving the history that we could do now was to gather oral histories Time is fleeting. Stories need to be collected now before we lose any more seniors. We have formed a steering committee connected with the Putnam Museum and Augustana College and have begun collecting those oral histories. In addition, we formulated a comprehensive project plan which includes a discussion with local filmmakers to produce a documentary film recording the experiences of the LGBTQ seniors in this area. When participants agreed to give their oral histories, they signed a document acknowledging that what they say is public knowledge. So no one is outing themselves with this project or breaching another's confidentiality. I can only share a brief history of this congregation's early social justice work on LGBTQ inclusion. Jack and Joyce Wiley were proud but unprepared supporters of their son Jason, who came out to them in his junior year of high school. In 1982, the Reverend Alan Agley, pastor of this congregation, had given a powerful sermon about the pink triangle, the symbol used by the Nazis to identify homosexuals for persecution. Agley framed the issue as one of human rights supported by United Nations principles. The Wisleys decided to form a youth support group at this church. Through word of mouth, young people and parents began coming from as far away as Dubuque and Geneseo. The Wileys were swamped. The group outgrew this church. With Agley's help, they created the nonprofit Quad Cityans Affirming Diversity, and Joyce Wiley devoted a major part of her life to running it. There were literally thousands of youth who came to events and proms and meetings. Many have said, "She saved my life." This is only a part of our congregation's support of LGBTQ people. The complete history deserves a separate sermon. Here is an even briefer history of the social scene here in the QCA in the 70s and 80s, when many of those giving their oral histories were young adults and coming out. In the 50s, if you were gay in the Quad Cities, you were likely to be in the closet. You knew that discovery could mean the loss of friends, family, and employment. And friends likely didn't know your real name, or more than just your first name, in case you were questioned by the police. In the 60s, there were documented police harassment of people thought to be gay. The only public place for gays to socialize was in bars, if you had the courage to enter one. For lesbian women, there were no public venues. Stonewall riots in 1969 were a prelude to organizing the LGBT community to advocate for their rights. The psychiatric diagnosis of homosexuality as a mental illness was not eliminated until 1973. And then AIDS hit in the 1890s. The local response to the AIDS crisis was robust, and with the establishment of the De La Cerda House, the AIDS Project, and Red Ribbon Dinners. But that is material for another sermon. And then, of course, I will lead the way toward marriage equality. I have had the privilege of listening to almost all of the oral histories gathered so far. They are amazing stories of resilience, countered with stories of exclusion and discrimination. There are stories of finding community when accepting communities were hard to find. And ultimately, they have words of wisdom for those coming out now, and much wisdom to share for the larger community about acceptance, respect, and inclusion. I do not want to speak for them, since this is not my story of oppression. I have invited two senior people from the LGBTQ community here today to share just snippets of their life journeys. These are individual stories, and they are not shared as representative of all stories. These stories are diverse, rich, and much can be learned about how to live with integrity by their example. The first reflection I would like to introduce Dana Rosenberg, my longtime friend and member of this congregation. I've asked both of our speakers today to focus their reflections on coming out, finding community, and wisdom they might want to share. There is much more to their stories. We don't have time to focus on all of the great stories they might have to tell. Each of their oral histories is over an hour long, so today we will just have highlights of their experience. At this time, please welcome Dana Rosenberg.
Thanks, Kathy. Good morning again. As I said before, I'm Dana Rosenberg. I've been a member of this congregation for about 8 years and attended and was a friend for several years before that. I've participated on various committees and teams, the choir, the chimes, and this year I'm serving as chair of the Committee on Ministry. My coming out story is mainly a story of my own acceptance of my identity, so that is what I'm focusing on today. I currently identify as a cisgender lesbian, though that hasn't always been the case. My first awareness that I was attracted to women came to me in a dream when I was about 27 years old. I awoke in the middle of the night from a dream in which I was kissing a friend from high school, a girl, and to my amazement, I thought, that seems pretty nice. I spent the next 10 or 12 years miserably having intense crushes on women that I knew and not knowing what to do about it. You see, I was married to a man at the time, and I didn't know how to talk with him or anybody else about my feelings. I did confide in a couple of people over that period of time, but they weren't much help. Looking back, I would divide my sexual identity formation into 3 stages. The first 27 years, I was a very well-socialized heterosexual. I learned at an early age that girls should have a boyfriend. So there was always some boy that I thought of as my boyfriend. I went steady with the same boy all through high school, but broke up with him as soon as I went to college. The summer reading assignment for my freshman year in college, 1963, was The Feminine Mystique by Betty Friedan. And that started me on the path toward feminism. But awareness of sexuality was not there yet. After my dream, stage 2, I considered myself bisexual, though almost entirely in my imagination, and in fact convinced myself that everyone was inherently bisexual for almost 20 years. Meanwhile, I was in graduate school at a major university and had access to a vast library of many kinds of books on the subject. There was no internet then. And I was studying psychology, which didn't help me as much as you might think. Later during this time, in 1981, I moved to the Quad Cities. I was involved in a few women's organizations, but had no connection to the lesbian community. I was aware of the Women's Works bookstore and went there a time or two, but I was very afraid of being found out. Then along came her song, the Quad Cities Women's Chorus. They started rehearsing in the spring of 1988, and I joined in late summer. Through the women's music we sang, the friendships I made, and our stated intention to be open to all women, whatever age, race, class, income, or lifestyle, which was code for sexual orientation in the late 80s, gender identity was still very far underground, I began finally to explore my feelings, moving toward stage 3. Her song became my community, and through that, I found my wife and my identity as a lesbian. Beck Forth and I have been in a committed relationship for 30 years and have been legally married for 11. Thank you, Iowa. We became friends as fellow second altos in the chorus, and road trips led to opportunities to room together. And the rest is, as we like to say, her story. The support of my friends in Hillsong was my lifeline through this transition, during which I separated and then divorced my husband and went haltingly into this new kind of relationship and navigating coming out or not every day at work and with my family. This was in 1991. The oral history project that Kathy talked about is focused on our experiences in the Quad Cities. As I said, during the early and mid-'80s when I first arrived here, I wasn't involved in anything remotely related to gay issues. I did teach a course in the psychology of women at St. Ambrose several times, and the topic came up, but it was purely academic on my part. My feelings were well compartmentalized. In the 90s, I became involved with community resources, including this congregation, QCAD that Kathy talked about, and the Women's Resource Center associated with the Women's Works bookstore. As for words of wisdom, I'm not sure what to say. It seems, though it may be an illusion, that the social and cultural environment is more open now. Young people are exposed to options and models of people living openly in a wide variety of ways. So maybe it's easier. But on the other hand, there's a lot of hatred out in the world that makes me fear for the future. Our equal rights are not yet assured. Actually, I do have 2 tracks of wisdom to share. One is to find your tribe, the people who will support you in your journey. They don't have to all be the same as you, just supportive. For me, that was Hillsong. The second track is from one of the first women's music songs I ever heard by Meg Christian. She wrote a song called Look Within. The lyrics go in part like this. I'm looking for the 4th of July, silver clouds and trumpets up in the sky. I'm looking for a heart that's true, a fairy princess to fall out of the blue. But life keeps standing me up, and your best is never enough. So I'll take my eyes off of the horizon, look within, look within. I'm waiting for my planets to align, for the kundalini to rise in my spine. I'm waiting for my shell to crack, for Mother Nature to take all her atoms back. But life keeps standing me up, and your best is never enough. Take my eyes off the horizon, look within, look within. I couldn't seem to make a move till I got you all to approve. But the one who always thinks I'm a groove grooves within, deep within. So I'll keep on singing with you, and we'll do what we're here to do. I'll stop waiting for the reviews. Look within, deep within, look within. End quote. Thank you. Now, if you will please look within your own heart and find your generosity, we'd appreciate it very much. Each month, the congregation shares half of our weekly offering with a community agency selected by one of our social justice teams. This month, the team has chosen Quad City Interfaith. You may donate to the weekly offering online by clicking on the link provided in the chat or by going to uucqc.org and clicking on the donate button. Also, if you'd like to share a personal joy or sorrow, you may do so by writing in the YouTube chat, and we will read it aloud after the offertory. Let us now share in this sacred time. Well, we really don't have a lot of people who shared their joys and sorrows on the chat. People said good morning, and Amy Key says, William said he really liked that story. I guess that's my story. Or maybe it's probably Jay's story. Anyway, the link is in the chat for contributing. Thank you for sharing your experiences today from John Whitson. Kathy has a meditation.
Take a deep breath. May we remember that we never walk out into the world alone. We stand on the shoulders of brave and generous ones who have gone before. We walk beside companions ready to catch us when we fall. We hold memories of dear ones in our hearts who keep us connected to our center. May we make this our most important work, to remember that who we are does not end at the edges of our own skin. At this time, we have special recorded music by Summer Osborne. The melody is As I Am, and this is an artist that Dana was introduced to when she and her partner were at the Women's Music Festival in Michigan. Please take time to enjoy this melody.
I am here, I am whole as I am. I am saved, I am loved as I am. I am grateful and I'm free, and I'm as perfect as can be. Darkness like a serenade. Nothing can make peace like a song. We've got a ways to go, but then we're closer than we've ever been. So let's walk together on and on. I am here, I am whole as I am. I am safe, I am loved as I am. I am grateful and I'm free, and I'm as perfect as can be. I am here, I am whole as I am. I propose a family that looks a lot like you and me, including all the people that we love. Then we'll take a photograph of everybody as they laugh, put it in the book entitled Us. I am here, I am whole as I am. I am saved, I am loved as I am. I am grateful and I'm free, and I'm as perfect as can be. I am here, I am whole as I am. May seem just like a song, may seem just like a thought, but it soon will take hold, become a truth that's taught for generations, generations, generations. I am safe. I am loved as I am. I am grateful and I'm free. I'm as perfect as can be. I am here. I am whole as I am. As I am.
Our next speaker is my dear friend, Clayton Peterson. And we, I think, first got acquainted because he was my quilting mentor. He is a quilting rock star here in the Quad Cities, and he's very generous with his talents and explaining his talents to others. And Clayton was the first person whose oral history I had the opportunity to listen to. And after the end, I went, wow, that is amazing. So I've invited him here today to share only part of his amazing story with us this morning.
Good morning. As she said, my name is Clayton Peterson and I live in Rock Island, Illinois. The reason I know my youth has been spent is my get up and go has got up and went. But really, I don't mind, as I think with a grin, all the fun places my get up has been. I was born in Moline, Illinois in 1947, the son of older parents. My mother was 35 and my father 44. My father a farmer, my mother a stay-at-home mom, and a great cook, very family-oriented. They both helped raise their younger siblings and were the stay-at-home, and that's why they waited so long to be married. I grew up with one brother, Richard. Further, I grew up with a best friend who was born in March of the same year I was born in August. We remained friends until he passed this year of stomach cancer. Having a dependable, lifelong friend that you could turn to influenced my life daily. Still best friends with his wife and their 3 sons. He was straight. I had a grand childhood, graduated from Alwood High School, attended Blackhawk College, and early on worked as a busboy at the Plantation Restaurant. That was an education. Every day, I think that we have to take and learn something. Every day is an education. I was drafted in 1968 and served our country in Vietnam as a medical corpsman with an artillery unit. One of the amazing things about that is way over in Vietnam, on an LZ 6 miles from the Laotian border, our firing 105 howitzers were manufactured at the Rock Island Arsenal. It's a bit of home, and all of them were manufactured there. I knew I was different at age 11 or 12. I was bullied in school and had several minor but brutal encounters. One of the encounters I remember most vividly is when in the locker room after PE practice, I was hung on the coat hook of the locker room by my belt loops. So I was hung in the air and had no way of getting down. Well, the coach came in and got me down. So that's all part of that story. But 20 years later at a class reunion, the person that hung me on that coat hook come up and apologized. How things change 20 years later. I continued pretending I was someone else until I returned from the military. Homosexuality was a mental illness until 1973. I was afraid to admit to too many people my true feelings. I had an early on relationship with an alcoholic that lasted 1.5 years. I worked as a bartender at the plantation when I returned from the military, and then was hired in 1973 at the Postal Service, where I worked for 36 years, retiring in 2009. During this time, I also worked part-time at the plantation, tending bar. And then in 1978, began to work part-time at the gay bars. And the gay bars were the bars that had full acceptance. We could dance, we could kiss, and we could just love one another. And I think that that is the answer to all of that, if we can just learn, as God spoke, to love one another. I worked at the gay bars for the next 20 years. I met my husband in July of 1978, and we were married in 2009, just before I retired. In 1978, we purchased a house together. However, it was only in my name until my retirement in 2009. The reason it was only in my name was he had no credit when we got together, and it was kind of frowned on for two males to buy a house together. That was 1978. Things have changed. We have been delightfully accepted by the neighborhood and have made many friends. Our journey of 43 years has been filled with much family love by both sets of parents who accepted us. Both sets accepted us as we were. One story that I will share in about 1984, when the AIDS pandemic first hit. We were all having Thanksgiving dinner as a family with my husband's side of the family. I made the mistake when making the gravy of tasting it with my finger. My brother-in-law told his two children they could not have any gravy because of the possibility of the spread of AIDS. How things have changed since then. His concern was real, however, my carelessness didn't have thought enough. He made an embarrassing incident out of the whole thing, but we've gone beyond that since then. I was fully out of the closet in 1973 or so, only admitting who I was when it came up in conversation, and because of the shame, often denied that I was gay. Always had a bit of fear of retaliation, and that fear even exists today. Here I am speaking publicly. Who would have thought in 1960 or 70 that I would have even spoke publicly about my homosexuality? In 1992 or 1993, I became involved with QCAD, Quad Cityans Affirming Diversity, and that's all what we should do. We should remember, and during one of the speeches that we gave a panel discussion to some St. Ambrose students, and one of the presenters that day said, you know, the only thing normal in life is the setting on a washing machine. I think that we need to put that in the back of our minds, because that is the only thing that's really normal. So I became involved in QCAD and met Joyce Wiley. She always seemed to have the answers, or at least she would investigate and get back to you with a good answer or the proper answer. With her guidance, sexual orientation was added to the protected classes in all the Quad City ordinances. I was part of that group that went, and it was not QCAD that was represented. We formed a separate alliance because we might lose our 501c3 status if we became political. So another group was formed. However, we met at the facility of QCAD. It was just kind of one of those things. With her guidance, we celebrated in 2004 the I Do celebration, which promoted marriage equality. That became reality in Iowa in 2009. I was married in 2009 to my husband. I don't know if I mentioned that. further developed a phone line for single elderly gay people. And that phone line still exists today. There are about 5 people that I communicate with every day, and it's people that live alone. We had one good friend who had a heart attack, and no one checked on him for 5 days, and he succumbed to his heart attack. If someone had checked on him the first day that that heart attack happened, he probably would be alive today. Also established a gay and gray group, and that's elderly people with gray hair that meet on a monthly basis, and we go out to dinner occasionally. It's a social group for older people, and we enjoy it very much. When that started out, there were probably about 40 to 50 members. We were all seeking equality for, it was in 1998 or 99, and we were trying to, 1998 or 99, we were all trying to seek equality for hospital care. When you had a partner for a long period of time and they would be hospitalized for some reason, the doctors wouldn't share information. Joyce was instrumental in getting something done about that also. So the Gay and Gray group still meets today, and if anyone's interested, just contact me or go to QCAD and there's probably a link. So that concludes my little brief history of where I've been and where I'm going. You will never realize the value of the journey until it becomes a memory. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Clayton and Dana, for sharing your stories. The good work of collecting oral histories is going to go on. Today, listening to Dana and Clayton's story again, although I've heard them, I was moved again by the complexity of their experiences and their resilience and compassion for themselves and others. Before we finish today, I'd like to thank the crew here this morning for putting this service together for YouTube. Of course, Dana and Clayton for sharing their stories. I'd like to thank Miriam Andrews-Oman for leading the hymn singing, for Lori Odell McCullum for our pianist, and for Eric Adamek, yes, up in the control booth. And of course, Jay Wolin for our emotional support and sharing the words for all ages. We have another hymn, Come Sing a Song With Me. I think this is a fitting sentiment for the end of this. We'll have closing words and then extinguishing the chalice.
Come sing a song with me, come sing a song with me, come sing a song with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come dream a dream with me, come dream a dream with me, come dream a dream with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come walk in rain with me, come walk in rain with me, come walk in rain with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come share a rose with me, come share a rose with me, come share a rose with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you home find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time.
We gather in honor of the memories that hold and heal us, for stories we tell of those whose heroism inspires our own, for the pictures of loved ones who have passed, in whose images we see our better selves, for the work of remembering that we stand on the shoulders of others who have paved the path on which we walk and blessed us with advantages we didn't earn all on our own. May these memories of those who have come before inspire us to pass on a better world to those who will come after us. May their light guide our way. Please join me in the words extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And bless Lori with the postlude.
Thank you, Lori. That was beautiful. Please remember to join us in the town hall at 11:15. The Zoom link is available in the chat in this service and also in the various emails and other notices that have come around. Thank you very much.